I'm gonna ask you a question. When you came pulling in here, did you notice a sign on the front of my house that said dead storage?
Jimmy, you know I ain't seen no shit.
Did you notice a sign in the front of my house that said dead storage? You know why you didn't see that sign?
Why?
Cause it ain't there, cause storing dead ain't my fucking business, that's why.
From the world-famous Blackbird Studios, it's the Rave X podcast. And now, Rave X.
T-Money, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Rave X. This is my show, the Rave X podcast. Today, we're going to go over a story and a little episode I like to call Hero. That's right, your boy Rave X is a hero, but you guys already do this, so let's dive in. Have you ever been in a situation where you really needed a job? I mean, you got bills to pay and rent, and you really, really need a job. Well, that's what happened to your boy Rave X a few years back, way back ago, in another life. So I had to take a job as a mall security guard. Guys, I'm not proud of this. I'm kind of not ashamed of it. I had bills to pay. So anyway, long story short, I take this job, and I'm a effing mall cop. So my strategy was to stay out of the mall as much as possible. And what they would let me do is they would let me drive around in this little covered mobile golf cart, like a security cart, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. So when the weather was nice, I would come in, get my radio, get my keys, and I would hop in a little covered mobile security cart. And I would just kind of rover around the mall on the outside, and I'd stop down by the water, and I'd have a smoke, and I'd drive up to the garage and watch the sun and all that stuff. And that's kind of how I killed time to take myself out of the fact that I was now a low-paid mall cop. But your boy Rave has evolved since then. World-famous podcaster. Anyway, my strategy was this. Try to keep yourself busy. Try to do some good. If you can help some people, maybe you can save a life or two. But try to do something. Don't just sit there and sulk because you've got this horrible job. And you know what? You're not going to have this job forever. And I was there for a couple of years, and then I was off like a prom dress. So one day I'm driving around in the mobile golf cart, and I would get calls like someone lost their car or someone locked their keys out of the car. And what I did was I got really good at unlocking people's car. And it was kind of fun to me, because it was kind of a challenge and a puzzle. And I got to use my brain. So some people would use the Slim Jim, and they'd go in through the side of the car and try to unlock it. You guys have all seen that before. And I came up with a better way, because all these cars were different. I would get a screwdriver and a wedge and this long little iron pole I found. It was like maybe 4 feet long, and you could bend the tip of it, and you could bend it and kind of maneuver into a car and flick the little switch that would unlock the car door. And I would carry that around with me because I was always getting calls. Someone locked themselves out of the car, pole Charlie 126, mobile, please respond. And I would say, you got it, dude. And I would come down and unlock their car. Sometimes they'd throw you $5, $10, whatever. So one day, it's a real nice day in the summer, man. It was like July. It was like literally 98 degrees outside. And I'm in the little golf cart. I've got my iced coffee. I got a fan. I got a little radio playing the Red Sox game. And I get a call from Sergeant Taylor. Sergeant Taylor calls to Mobile. Mobile, we've got a possible situation down in Charlie 221. Charlie 221, please respond. I said, all right, sure. I start making my way down there. Then I hear Scott on the radio again. Mobile, we got a call of a child gasping for air, crying in a car. We're locked out of the car. We can't get in there. Mobile, please respond. You've got 1 minute. And I'm like, oh shit, a child's in a car, coughing, and something's going on. I race down there. I see Sergeant Scott, and he's holding a fire extinguisher in his hand. And he says to me, you got 30 seconds to unlock this car. I'm just going to bash the window open with the fire extinguisher. And I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? He said, somebody reported there's a little girl in the back of this minivan, and she's crying and gasping for air. And then I listened, and I could hear a little kid like choking in the back of this car. And mind you, it was like 100 degrees down there in that garage, man, because, you got all the heat, but none of the ventilation, and it was just a furnace down there. And you know how they say not to leave a dog in a car with the windows up? Well, some parent of the year left their 4-year-old child in the back of this minivan with the effing windows up, guys. I kid you not. The hell is the matter with people? So I go back to the mobile. I grab my wedge and my screwdriver and my little door unlock pole that I had, and I start trying to jimmy my way into the car, but I can't get in, man, because I never worked on a minivan before. So then I go around to the other side. Mind you, Sergeant Scott's looking at me like, you got 15 seconds, I'm just going to bash open the window. And so I get my tools and I'm working the door. I slide the pole in, I hit the little switch. Boom, I pop the door open, right? I open the door and I look around. In this minivan, when I stuck my head in there, it was like a effing oven. I swear to God, it was like an oven. You could have fried a steak inside of this minivan. And I look in the back, the very back seat. There's this little redheaded white girl. She had to have been 4, I'm guessing. And she just was not doing good, man. I mean, she was kind of foaming at the mouth. Her skin was red. And I reached back there and I grabbed her and I pulled her out of the van and I handed her off to Sergeant Scott. And Scott had already called mall management. And there was a woman who had just had a kid like 3 or 4 months ago. And when she heard what happened, she ran down to the garage, man. So he handed off the child to this woman. I can't remember what her name was. Very nice Irish woman. And you could see just the look of horror in her face when she's holding this kid and the kid's grasping for air. And we're all realizing, who would lock their child in a minivan with the windows up in the garage mall? Guys, absolutely ridiculous. But it happened. And that's why your boy Rave had to be a hero that day. Oh, true story. True. But it doesn't end there. So they take the child down. They start making announcements over the loudspeaker. Anyone with the license plate, blah, 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 come down. And it was another 37 minutes before somebody came down. Like, we don't know how long the kid was in that van, but I know it was a good 37, 40 minutes before someone came down to the mall office to claim their child. So they kind of locked their kid in there for like an hour. And when they finally came down, it was a couple, probably in their late 30s maybe, Caucasian couple. Not that means anything, but they had 3 kids with them. So that means at some point they made a decision. What kid do we leave in the van to die? I know, the redheaded one. And that's what they did. And they went out shopping throughout the mall. And they looked kind of like you ever seen like Amish people? They look like their clothes came from like the 50s. It was really weird. And they didn't seem shocked. They were upset. They were just like, yeah, we want our kid. You know, what's going on? So at that point, I'm out of it. You know, I was just the guy to unlock the car and get the child out. I had to file a report and write everything down and stuff. And a couple of weeks later, it actually goes to court, man. And, I get summoned in, and it wasn't in front of a judge or anything like that. It was like a magistrate or something. We were in a room, a couple of people there. Magistrate's there. I'm there with my boss, the account manager, and she's there with her lawyer. And boy, let me tell you something. She must have hired a lawyer off the side of a bus. He looked like, my name's Irvin W. Shyster, and I will work for you. I'm an attorney at law. Like, he looked like he hadn't had a case since 1979, man. Just really horrible, like, tweed suit and big, oversized Coke bottle glasses and a really bad comb-over. I mean, they really got the cheapest lawyer money could buy. And we're sitting there at this table, and I'm looking at the woman, and she looks, again, very, like, not from this time, right? Like, just very dated, like, 60s, 70s, just hair parted down the middle, reddish-brown hair, flat. She's wearing this white, sort of frilly top. She never said a word, and she never looked up. She just stared down with her hands flat on the table. I'm there with my boss, and when I finally saw this woman, when I finally saw this monster who left their kid to, die in their minivan for an hour, I kind of got a little racked with emotions. I couldn't believe how, there wasn't a, I'm sorry, here's why it happened. She just sat there, and I'm sure her lawyer, Irving W. Shyster, told her, don't say a word, I'll win this case for you. And so we sit there, and the magistrate guy asked me to tell my story, and I told my story. My account manager chimed in, yes, we got the call. He unlocked the vehicle, pulled the child out, handed her off. We waited. No one came for another 40 minutes. And then the lawyer got to question me. Now, guys, I always heard jokes about lawyers, right? And everyone hates lawyers, and I never knew why until this minute. Like, I've heard jokes like, what do you call 3 dead lawyers stuffed in the back of a trunk? I don't know. What do you call that? A good start. What's the difference between lawyers and great white sharks? I don't know, what? Sharks don't eat their young. And I always heard these jokes like, why do people hate lawyers so much? Well, that day when I walked out of there, I realized why people hate lawyers. We literally saved a girl's life. And this guy went up one side of me and down the other, man, like I was the villain, like I was some bad guy. And he got a copy of my report. And he's going over my report. Mine, this is 2 or 3 weeks later. And he says to me, oh, okay, Rave. Okay, so what time did you respond to the call? And I told him. And he goes, okay, now you put in your report that it was 97 degrees? And I go, sure, yeah, it was 97 degrees. And he goes, well, do you know that it was actually 95 degrees? Oh, 2 degrees. Makes all the difference in the world. Kid's not going to die now. God, this guy. I wanted to dive across this table and choke him. And he's just questioning everything I did. And then you went in through the driver's side, and then you went, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I did it. The point is, this girl was gasping for air, and we got into the car. We didn't break the window, and that's what we wanted to do. You should be applauding us. And we got the kid out, and we saved her life. And he's like, oh, well, I see. Did you know that blah, blah? And I'm just like, dude, you know what? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I point at the woman and I go, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself because you literally left a child to die. And I look back at the lawyer and I go, now you're going to question me like I'm some bad guy? Like I did something horrible? You better worry about your client over there before she gets all the kids taken away from her. And the magistrate said, stop, order, My boss looked at me and said, stop that, don't do that. So we go over a little bit more questioning, and eventually we get to leave. And we walk out of there. My boss reprimanded me for losing my cool. And from what I hear, what ended up happening was the state gave her like 2 years probation or something. And they didn't take away her kids. And they said that if anything happens in 2 years, then yes, they will come and take away their children. And that was the last I ever heard or saw out of that super awesome mother of the year who left her little redhead child to die in the back of her van. Now, here's the thing, guys. I see a lot of people talking shit on Facebook, and they talk a lot of shit about things that are wrong with the world, right? But they never do anything. They just say, how about this homeless problem, huh? Hashtag sad. And then they just go on about their stupid life. Or they say, I can't believe that they're evicting people. And they never do anything about it. Here's the thing, and I'm not one to preach. We can all do a little something, right? We can all do a little something good. Now, I pulled this girl out of the car. Hopefully, at this point, she's probably in her 20s. God bless her. I hope she's living a great life. But we all can kind of rise to the occasion and do something good when we're called upon. I didn't sit back and tweet about this. Fucking rolled up my sleeves and did something. And that's why your boy, Raven Montgomery Xavier, RMX, is a hero. Powerful. Powerful. Well, that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. I got shit to do. My name's Rave X. This is the Rave X Podcast, episode 27, Hero. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. It really helps out the show. And a shout out to a couple of new subscribers and listeners we got. Thanks for listening. You know who you are. My name's Rave X, and I'm out of here.
That was the Rave X Podcast. Be sure to click like and subscribe. For podcasts, new music, and all things Rave X, go to youtube.com and search Rave X Music.